Hello and welcome to KOABC. This video will be going over file conversions. When you're running code, all of your actions will be happening in order, one line after the next, unless something has told it to do otherwise, like a loop. When it's done going, it'll just go back to the start, or a function would point elsewhere. But for the most part, everything is sequential, one line after the other. But we don't really have a line in this canvas area, so the way we've handled that is with our events. The start is the very top of the file, so this will be line 1, and everything that is linked beneath it is going to be 1, 2, so on and so forth, and so that you're going to be creating a line underneath start, and this is going to be right at the top of the file. If this is in an intermediate or beginner level, inside the file, you're going to see things that we have put at the start and then your start code. But if this is within the advanced editor, then your content will be literally line 1. Within the advanced editor, the very first thing that needs to be put in the start is your includes. And then you can do other global variable declarations. I would encourage you to not do anything that are like actions in the start and more just define things and prep things for later, because we have the setup for actually doing actions. The way the setup works is after the start block is done running, we'll enter setup, and this will be run one time. Then finally, for our last event, we have the loop. And effectively, once start is complete and setup is complete, now we're going to enter the loop. And once the loop is done running, once you go through everything that's inside the loop, it's going to go back to the start and do it all over again. And this is going to be going as fast as the computer can go. And so you're going to be looping through this very quickly, which is why usually you'll want to put something in there to say, yeah, we're looping all the time, but maybe we won't do this action unless a certain amount of time has passed. Maybe we won't do it unless 2 seconds have passed or something like that. And then the final thing for structuring our file is functions. So let's take a look at a function. If I have a function, it's never going to be reached, because what's going to happen is we run start, we run setup, and then we get stuck in loop. We're always going to be in loop. So we're never going to access this unless we call the function. And so by calling the function, when this line is hit, it's going to go down here and go all the way through whatever you put inside your function. And within your Arduino file, all the functions were going to be printed below your loop. These are the ways that you can access the code that you've written, or that the computer can access the code that you've written. So what happens if I make something, I want to print something? If it has an indent and it's not attached to anything, this is just floating out in the middle of nowhere. This doesn't have anywhere that it's going to be, it doesn't have anywhere that it knows that it should be put within the file. So the way this will be converted is it's going to be commented out above your setup. You'll still see it in the file, but it can't do anything because it's going to be commented out, because it doesn't have a place in any of these event or function blocks. So make sure you put them somewhere where you can actually interact with them. Now that we can see the structure of how things get printed, let's try actually saving a file. I'm actually going to go to an example to pull up something that's not just gibberish. So I'm going to take Blink and I'm going to kind of alter it a little bit so that we have a little bit more stuff going on. Alright, so I've edited this Blink file. This is way more complicated than it needed to be for the intermediate editor, but the reason I edited it is because now I have 3 variables being set in the start, some things happening in setup, some things happening in loops, and then 2 functions. But then on top of that, I also have this print statement, but it's not within anything, so we can see where it ends up. So let's save this. I've got Blink, I'm going to download it. And let's see what it looks like. It's going to ask me to create a folder, but that's what's supposed to happen. If it wants me to make a folder, it does it for me if I select OK. So let's take a look. So at the start, we can see this is the intermediate editor, and this is all the stuff that is pre-built in. And so this this is pre-built in, and you will always have this if you were in the intermediate editor. So next up we have blocks with no starter code. So that's this guy, and I am not in a block, and that's correct, and it's all commented out, so there's no way this can ever be run. Let's see what else is in here. Just make some more space. So here is my start program. You can see I've got my 3 variables defined in here, and they're at the start. After that, we've got setup, and it's just what we expected. We've got the LED 3 setup and the blink. Below that, we have the loop. It's calling the function. We're able to see it's checking for duration, and what it calls in there is switch LED. Underneath our loop is our first function, and it looks like the one that they put in first, it's probably because it's higher up, is switch LED, and so it's got all of that. And then we have change duration, which is just what we expected. Then there's a big old gap, and this is all of the rest that is built into the file. We're going to scroll for a little bit because there's one more thing I wanted to show you. Here we are. So after all of our pre-built-in functionality, at the very bottom, you're going to see a giant commented out thing that has characters that won't load and things that don't look like actual code. And that's because this is what makes it possible to reload it back into KOABC. So if I lose all of my progress, yeah, this is what Blink originally looked like, and then I upload. There's all of my stuff back, and that's only possible because of all of this down at the bottom. And so it's intentionally having these poor characters so that you look at this and you go, oh, I shouldn't, this is not something that can be like edited and messed with. So one more thing to note is you can change things within the Arduino IDE, but it's not going to change those things in the block coder. So if I wanted to change this to be 5, that's fine, and it works and it saves. And so if I close it and then I reopen that file, we can see that it saved my change. It's still 5 in there. But if we do that again over here, and I reload my stuff, it's not 5, it is instead 10, because the edits just aren't able to be converted back over into the block code editor. Okay, I hope that was helpful in understanding how your block code is being turned into C++ Arduino code. Thank you.